Our job and responsibility here is not to give you or to teach you what to think. Our role here is simply opening up dialogue so that you could learn a different way to process your feelings.
We should be talking about these things, and we should be educating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be supporting. We don't have to have all of the answers today. We just need to be willing and open enough to have the conversation. Opportunities like this give us a chance to show that we really mean business and that we mean what we say. And so in my opinion, if you are someone who's asking what you can do, get on your social media, share your opinions, talk with your friends, talk with your family members, find out if there are petitions out there in your local communities or even online that you can be a part of to show your support.
I want you to have an additional viewpoint from two people who lead and who have been responsible for leading large numbers of people. If you want to affect some change, there's an organization called Color of Change. If you are for, not necessarily just for justice for Floyd, but against what we're talking about, text Floyd to 55156. All righty. Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. How are we doing out there?
Happy Sunday.
All right. Just want to make sure you can hear us really, really, really good. Good afternoon. Good evening. I know we got a lot of people out there once again on it's a beautiful Sunday here in H-Town. And let me adjust my camera a little bit. Yeah. There we go. It's a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful Sunday here in H-Town, and I want to know where you're from. So let us know where you are from. It's kind of what we do at the beginning of each call. If this is your first time on From Our Home to Yours, let us know if it's your first time by just saying first time. And we're glad to see a few people who have actually come back. A lot of people have come back to join us, and which is really good. It's always good to know that you can be live and you can go through a whole hour's call and people actually come back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So anyway, let us know if you're here for the very first time. Put first time in there. Let us know, and welcome all of you. I know we've got some that are on Zoom as well, and we also have this being translated every Sunday. We have a translation team that actually takes care of our Latino listeners and viewers that are on as well. And now, just to let you know, if you are going to have questions throughout this session, we want you to get your questions. You may already have questions. Get your questions in the chat. And I've got my cell phone here, so when you see me looking down and reading, it doesn't mean that what she says is not interesting. Okay.
Yeah, let's make that clear.
It just means
I have a lot of interesting things to say.
It just means I'm checking my text messages and making sure that, there's no phone calls from between the sheets and places like that, right?
No, we are not going there today.
All right. So we're gonna keep this cool for Jeff Burris. It says his first time. I'm gonna be a good boy. Okay. And I gotta tell y'all a story though. I did see a receipt. I saw something up in my laundry room from between the sheets. So she's cleared at the moment. Okay, she is cleared at the moment. But welcome. We got several first timers who are on here. Lisa Harris, welcome to the show. Mark this down in your calendar. Carol, first timer. Winston, first timer. Mark this down in your calendar. I'll give a little synopsis of what our show is about. Actually, you know what?
What?
Why don't you tell everybody, tell our first timers why we did the show, what it's all about, and why they should come back next Sunday.
Well, they should come back to see me, of course. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Well,
this is
why you don't let me talk.
This is why I'm reluctant to give the microphone up. Okay, I'm just saying, this is why I'm reluctant. But anyway, go ahead, tell them why we do this call.
Well, we do this call because we want to have sort of an unplugged experience. We want people to get to know us in our element, and you know we're used to being on stage, and you're used to getting to know the leaders, and you know, and we've got this great reputation in the industry. But we are also people. We are husbands and wives. We are parents. You know, we are human, and so
have you Googled me lately? You say it's great reputation. You know, some people that can't stand my guts.
Oh, that's just because they don't know you, honey.
Oh, but you know me, right?
Yeah, I know you.
So what they have to say don't matter?
No.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure.
No.
Okay.
I mean, look, and you haven't made it until people put negative things on the internet about you. So if you've got if your reputation is too squeaky clean, then that means you're not making a difference. So I'm not worried about that. But we wanted to come to you in an unplugged. Can you not interrupt me?
I want to interrupt.
You asked me to give.
I'm trying not to interrupt you, but I'm trying to drink some water and not get lipstick or whatever this stuff is.
Yeah, that's because that's my water.
Why don't you get me one?
Look, I'm not your secretary now. I don't work for you.
Go ahead, keep doing what you're doing.
So anyway, what was I saying? Because you done got me all.
You told the people about the show.
Oh, about the show, and what was that? What did I say so far?
Unplugged, and you want to get unplugged. We wanted to share with everybody, you know, just some positivity and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and it's not about business. Too. We don't promote anything on this show. We don't have any advertisers or anything like that. We're not selling anything. It is just us, very authentic, very transparent. And I mean, I've been having a good time doing this show with you.
I have too. I really have. I've really had a great time listening to you.
Listening to me. Oh, ask anybody. You do 95% of the talking. I mean, just go back and watch the other episodes. It's all recorded. I mean, I couldn't get it last week. I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
I'm not going to say anything about that today.
And you have water all over your beard.
Well, you've got lipstick all over the water thing. So I just don't, lipstick is gross to eat. Okay. Anyway, so today's call is going to be a little, we've been promising to do this. Now, when we normally come on this call, we come on and we have no agenda. We have nothing planned, so to speak. Very seldom have we ever come on this call and both of us knew what we were going to talk about. We had some conversations recently on relationships, apologies, and stuff like that. It just kind of folds to where it was. Last call was really giving you the opportunity to ask your questions. Last week, we really addressed what's going on in our world today with regarding the episode that took place, obviously in Minnesota, with the brutal killing and murder, from my opinion, murder of George Floyd. And we gave the audience an opportunity to express, to ask questions, and we invited people to really feel, to give them permission to feel however it is that you feel. What you'll notice is that we're not judgmental, and we don't expect everyone to adopt our principle or adopt our philosophy. We don't expect everybody to believe the way we believe, but we do hold a responsibility. We lead large numbers of people all over the world. Right now, in about 180 something countries, we lead people. And we know that we've got a responsibility, we've got a voice. And some say, some told me, as I mentioned, hey, listen, with such a large company, our company was one of the fastest growing, actually within our industry for a new company, it was the fastest growing company in the world last year. And some companies say, man, you got to be very careful what you say because all of your audience is not Black. All of your participants and your followers and people who contribute to you are, the majority of our business is not African American. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. And that's why I double down, because this is not, for us, it's not about how many dollars we need to save and who's gonna oppose my viewpoint. We worked really hard for a long time to become free. We worked, and it's hard to have personal freedom in America or even in this world without financial freedom. It's very difficult. Right. Okay. And so our future, my son that we have, who's 22 years old, when he have kids and they have kids, their future is not for sale. And so we're not quiet, and we're not going to be quiet. I did a post and said that with all of our companies that we own, if it came to it that speaking up for what we believe in cost us money, we'd rebuild this thing 10 times over before we sell out what we truly believe in. And so if that's something that rubs you the wrong way, it's probably going to keep rubbing you the wrong way. We're not going to apologize for that. But right is right, wrong is wrong. And we believe we are on the side of what we call the human side of it. And so you may hear some references today about it, because as we talk about money matters, we're going to put a little different spin on it today. And it won't just be money from the standpoint of how we normally do things, but we're going to talk about money matters and how you now can play your role. Okay, how you can play your role. This call for us is normally it's normally, educational. It's fun. It's funny. This is what we do. Is how we normally get along. But I know we have some serious matters going on right now, and I can't sit by and say, let me just go with my regular scheduled program.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, and ignore everything that's going on. I think that's a bit insensitive. And we were out to brunch and today, and on the way in the car, we were talking about the difference between All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. And that is a huge dichotomy right now. It's a controversy. Mm-hmm. And I just want to go on record as saying that I agree that all lives matter. The truth is that when we see instances like what happened to George Floyd, some people in America don't believe that all lives matter. That's why we have to make the distinction for Black Lives Matter. We are not saying that we don't stand with other people's rights in this country, that we don't value all human life, because we do. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. We feel that we are Americans and we have certain unalienable rights as Americans, and certain rights also as human beings, and we all should be treated equally. That's the whole point. So I'm a bit confused when I see people make the distinction of, okay, well, it's not just Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, when I think we're in essence saying the same thing. Well, no, we're not saying the same thing, because it's not the same thing. It's many who come to grips and are enabled to say Black Lives Matter. They don't necessarily mean that all lives matter, and it's very difficult for them to verbalize those words. Okay, so you're saying that some people don't believe that Black Lives Matter. Well, that's clear. Well, put it this way here. Some people don't believe that a Black life matters just as much. Right. So it's difficult for them to say. They can't even fathom themselves. They can't even making the statement saying it. And so the example I gave you today earlier. And we're going to get to these money matters very quickly here today, because this is really important to what we're going to talk about. I gave her an example. I want you to imagine you're at your state fair, and you took your children with you, and you had 6 kids, and you guys are at the state fair, and you're having all kind of fun, eating cotton candy, you're eating popcorn and riding rides and playing games, and it's a wonderful family affair. And you turn around and little Johnny is missing. And you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's little Johnny? Where is my son? Where is he? And now you're looking around, you've got your husband or your wife, and y'all are looking for little Johnny, and you can't find little Johnny. Your other 5 kids are safe. It's Johnny. And so now the other 5 kids are looking around for little Johnny. Y'all come together, and now you say, hey, I am now going to go look for little Johnny. And your kids say, well, Dad, well, what about us? Why aren't you looking for us?
Well, I got to go find little Johnny. Why aren't you putting the attention on us? We're standing right here next to you. But see, it's now little Johnny who is in jeopardy, is who in need.
Right.
And so who matters most, or who should the focus be on at that moment? The one that's in need. I've always told people, what's the most important part of a car? This is before Black Lives Matter was around. And the most important part of a car is the part that is missing. And so the component that is important at this time is the lives of Black citizens right here in the United States. That's where the gap is. And so as we move on, the thing I want everybody to understand is I don't want you to get off focus. You're gonna see all kind of crazy stuff. You're gonna see people bring you statistics, and all statistics most of the time they are warped to hold to one person's philosophy or their side.
Or perspective, yeah.
Or one person's perspective. You're gonna see things like, they had some little idiotic thing going out there called the George Floyd Challenge. I won't even discuss what it is, but those type of things are designed to take your mind off of what's happening and say, let's focus on this one incident. Mm-hmm. Same day George Floyd died, there was another man that died as well, who got killed by the police and was unarmed. Or you're gonna hear people say, well, what about this white guy who got killed in South Africa? Or when this happened, where was Black Lives Matter? And what about black on black crime? And the last I figured, when blacks kill blacks, they arrest them right away, right?
Oh, for sure.
I've never seen a black person shoot somebody or kill somebody on videotape and it's still a free person.
Right, and we're not saying that that doesn't matter.
Right, so
Right.
Don't get distracted with that stuff. Don't get into verbal battles about that stuff. Right now is a very important moment. And we're going to talk about economics, because what we're going to do is we're going to shift it away from black and white to green and white. Last time I looked at a dollar bill, it was green and white.
Right.
So we're going to talk about a different color today. Now, what we're not saying, okay, let's forget about what's happening. No, let's talk about who contributes right now to this movement. Number one, you're going to have people who are, let's give the list of them. You have people who are victims. Those are going to be contributors to the movement. You're going to have your protesters. Those are contributors to the movement. You're going to have your looters and your rioters. Those are contributors to the movement. So you're going to have your people who are out there with signs, okay? Those are contributors to the movement. You're also going to have those who are staged within the movement that are not necessarily for the movement. They engage in negative activity so that we can focus on these distractions. They are an important part of the movement as well. You're also going to have people who are not necessarily out there marching, and you're going to have financiers. They are part of the movement. You're going to have political people who have political influence and can move things from a political perspective. They are a part of the movement as well. And so, and I can go and give you a list on and on and on. And the reason I bring this up is because I had my massage therapist, we were having a discussion, and she was so angry. She was like, and she's an African-American woman, and she's like, I'm so upset with Black Lives Matter because where were they? What happened the last time? And why didn't things change? And I had to explain to her that there's multiple pieces to the pie of change. And I shared with her, don't be upset. Don't give up, because Black Lives Matter did exactly what they're supposed to. Their number one job is not to bring change, it's to bring awareness. This is why you don't know who the face of Black Lives Matter is. Why? You can't kill an individual face. You can't remove them. So what they did is they show up every time something happens. They make it aware. They're well funded. They have people who show up. These marches don't get started because communities just come together. Black Lives Matter does it. And when that happens, their job is done. Now the baton must be handed over to someone else, a list of all the people that I just mentioned, and then they carry it on. And I gave her the example, and I want your opinion on this, and then we'll talk about money matters. I said, when you go to, let's just say, for example, you go to a fast food restaurant and you order a hamburger. When you get to the window and you notice in your bag that your fries or you got the wrong change, you don't yell at the girl or the guy in the back and say, who was doing your fries, where is my change?
Right.
Because their job was just to drop the fries in a certain temperature of grease to cook the fries. Their job may not even be able to shake the salt on the fries. And then somebody else grabs that, puts it in a container, somebody else bags it, somebody else brings it to the front, somebody takes your money, and there's a process. So don't get angry at the person who bagged the fries when your change is short. It must go on. And so now, those of us who is on this call right now, you are a part of it as well. Regardless of whether you agree with it or not, you are a part of the solution. And so I want you to know that no matter what role you play, your hand is going to hold that baton. You can drop it if you want to, but in some capacity, your hand will hold that baton. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. I don't have anything to add to that. We're in agreement.
Woo! Y'all have no idea what that means when she says she is in agreement and she has nothing else to add. Take a couple questions. I won't go on my deal there, but I'll take a couple questions right here, right now, and then we're going to get right into money matters and show you some stuff. I'm going to show you, those of you right now, I'm going to give you some steps on economic empowerment, how you can economically empower yourself. There's many of you who are on the call right now who you're stuck. And you're right now probably in an awareness moment of, wow, I wish I can do more, or I wish I was in a better position. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. I'm going to show you how to do it. Get yourself, your son, your daughter, 17, 18, it doesn't matter, older, it doesn't matter who they are, where they are, what their race is. Get them on this call, because I'm going to give some simple steps. And I'm going to give it to you from experience of what we've done. Let me take a couple questions here. First one says, who's it? Zatarsha Barrett says, EB looks amazing as always, and you have done something different with your makeup.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I just didn't have my makeup artist today. Ed and Andrea Haynes' daughter, Kaylin, does my makeup. And, today I took a day off, so she didn't come today. So what you see is me trying to do the best I can. But thank you for saying that. So maybe it's not too bad.
You look beautiful.
Thank you, honey.
Yes. Viola Hall says, what do you do to keep your happiness in marriage when adversity hits? Okay. Always remember, it's not your spouse's job to bring happiness to you. It is your job to make yourself happy. It's your spouse's role to add to that happiness. So if I'm sad, she can't make me happy. I've got to find happiness within me. I've got to light the pilot light, and then she can come and pour gasoline on it. And so, I have been in this moment. I can tell you guys, it affected me.
Right.
And I didn't know what was really going on. I am normally very in control of my feelings.
Yes.
And very little bothers me. And I was a shell of myself this past week and didn't know it. And then I had to realize it.
When did you realize it? Because you didn't mention that.
Yeah, but no, but I just noticed I was a little edgy. I wasn't sleeping the best, and my thoughts and my dreams when I go to bed, because normally what you think about last is what you dream about. And I would wake up and I just wasn't, I was talking to Ed, I talked to Johnny about it, I talked to T. Gray, just haven't talked to Mark. We had conversations about it, and they noticed it too. But it's my job to pop out and bring my own happiness. Right. It is. And it's okay if you're not. I'm always a happy person, but it's okay if you're not. How have you been?
I've actually been good most of the time. I mean, this was, it's been rough here lately because we are being bombarded with images that are negative, but that we need to see and accept and come to grips with because, we've most certainly got to change this world. Our kids deserve that. And so, we are experiencing a new normal on so many levels. And most of it is good. I feel like all things work together for good, but there's still an adjustment that we have to make. We're still going to restaurants. Things aren't back to normal. We're just trying to buy basic things, and businesses are closing. I mean, it's just people are hurting right now, and hurting financially, hurting emotionally, and I don't know. It does get to me sometimes too. I'm not going to lie about that. It's difficult, but we've been on a personal growth track for so long, and we actually have some really great tools, and we know how to manage and how to snap out of it. And so I'm grateful for that, but it's been rough sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer a question that I just read.
Okay.
And I'll answer this one here, and we'll go into some other stuff.
Okay.
I think it's Leona RT says, so do you believe it's better that there isn't one main leader of these protests like Malcolm X and I don't see the rest of it, but Malcolm X and whoever else? Yes, I do. If you start looking back, at the 60s and what took place in the 60s, there were a couple of identifiable leaders that you had. Two that we talk about a whole lot, but you also have to remember how we're educated in our school system, the exclusion of other leaders as well. There were probably 5, 6, 7 main focal point large leaders at that time. And there were more leaders, but I'm talking about focal point leaders that we had. And if you look now in 2020, 60 years later, if we had the same, that means that there's no progress. If I want you to imagine your family having a net worth of $100,000 in the 60s, and in 2020, your family has a net worth of $100,000. It's no progress, not at all. Okay. For more reasons than just progress, I think it's better now because technology has allowed each individual person to have a voice. The way media operates today is completely different. Social media rules, so everything can't be edited out the way it was before. People have to understand that Martin Luther King Jr. was a hated man during the time of the Civil Rights Movement. We love him now. He was a hated man. Muhammad Ali that I'm wearing on my shirt, he was not beloved during the time that he opposed the Vietnam War and stood up for civil liberties. They hated him. Love him now. They hated him. And so so now what happens is you can't pinpoint and shut a leader down. When you look at how people were divided before, even specifically from a slave perspective, they take the leader and they do harm to the leader to show you what would happen to you. And that brought about fear. And this is how you can control a large body of people. Okay. And this is why the mind is so powerful and how people were subjugated to abuse, because, man, did that to my leader, look what he'd do to me. Look what he'd do to my family. And I just, my courage and it dwindles and my fear expands. Well, what you gonna do now? You're gonna take everybody's cell phone? You're gonna take everybody's voice? You're gonna kill everybody? Can't do it. And so this is why I think the world has become emboldened. Not only African Americans, but people of all perspectives and races. Specifically, I'll say white America has really come to grips now because there is no person that they're following.
Yeah, because
the movement is bigger than the person.
People are human. So in as much as that's true, it's easy for me when there is a face of of a movement or of change for me to attack that person's character and tear them down and judge them. When it's a movement, it is about the issue. It's not about the people involved. And so to answer your question, yes, I think that it is better that we make it faceless, that we make it about the movement and not attached to a specific person.
Yeah, big time. Question on here, then we're moving on. Beta Wood asks, what is your stance on other leaders or people in authority positions making comments that go against the very thing that most are fighting for? Comments and then retract, keep quiet, or say what you think people, I guess, want to hear, even if it's not genuinely how they feel, I guess you was trying to say, okay? If I'm interpreting that right, Vita, just want to make sure. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and this is why I call it, there's a component in here that I call defunding, how to defund social injustice and racism. And as I mentioned, there's a component of how we do it. Remember, as I'm talking, you've got a long list of contributors and participants to this movement, and everybody's not on fries. Everybody's not wrapping the burgers. Everybody's not at the cash register. There's a long succession of it, and each person has a part, a role to play. Okay, but I take a strong stance on it, and what she and I have done is we have taken an active role and now being very conscious and taking action on those that we have lent our support financially, emotionally, and when we find that they want to hide behind their dollars, that's a stance that you're taking. That silence is a stance to me. I don't stand for it. You don't get my vote. You don't get our vote. So we have unfollowed. Is that going to hurt them if we just unfollow? No. But if enough people understand, because see, I won't use, tell you, my perspective. I mean, I'll give you my perspective, but I want you to use your own personal judgment. But there's some people that I'm very disappointed in because they post every single day. Tens of millions of followers every single day.
Multiple times a day. Yeah.
And you want to post a blackout photo? Listen, I probably have got lizards outside who can post a blackout. It doesn't take anything to post a blackout. And I'm looking for evidence because I want to believe. I'm looking for evidence that your main cause is not your audience that you believe who's predominantly white, so you can't take a stance. You don't get my vote. We're looking at where we put our resources, and we want to see active. We're going to talk about that, where we put our money. Our money makes a difference. I want you to know every dollar that you have in the bank, the federal government allows the bank to borrow $10 for every dollar that you have in the bank. So if you've got $1 million in the bank can borrow 10 million. If you got a few more, so we're readjusting that power, because if you don't stand, and here's the thing I want you to know. This, for us, is not a black or white issue. We've unfollowed more African Americans so far than anybody else so far, because you know better. And if you know better, you should do better. This is humanitarian, okay? Because now everybody's in the fight now. And so, silence and just saying, making a post of just I'm included. No, bro.
So
I got to see your actions.
So how do you feel about people who make the wrong statements or comments,
right,
insensitive comments, irresponsible comments, derogatory comments even, and then come back and retract it?
It all depends. But my personal feeling is most people, from the abundance of the heart, the fingers tight.
I love that. Okay.
So, there's some people we're just not fans of anymore. You can come back and give your retraction, and some people are going to make idiotic mistakes. And some people don't really know how to genuinely articulate the big point, and they get sidetracked on the small point like I just talked about. You'll find some of that as well. But you've got to be the judge of that. And, it's just something that you've got to do. You've got to be the own judge of that.
Well, do I feel like people can make mistakes? Absolutely. People make mistakes. I mean, we're human. We say things we don't mean all the time, or we say things we do mean, and we don't necessarily mean to say it in the way that it came out. So I do feel like when something is said from a person that we look to in society as a leader of sorts, people that we support, with our hard-earned money, I do think that when apology is warranted, it should be given. And I agree with Holton. Whenever that happens, you have to decide for yourself if it's sincere or not. Sometimes certain things can be taken out of context, and then a person can explain the context in which they meant it in, and it can make all the difference in the world. And then there are sometimes you say things and you meant exactly what you said. You just didn't count on. Right. You didn't count on being held accountable for it. And so that's also another thing. So I don't think that it's a blanket attitude towards something like that. I think it's a case by case basis, but we do have to give some latitude because we are all human. We have all been in a situation where we have said some things and it was completely wrong. We have had to go back and apologize. So do I feel like it's appropriate to apologize when you know you've offended people? Yes. But am I always inclined to accept you back into the same space in my life? No. It just depends on the circumstances.
Yeah. That's just how it is. And so I want to correct one statement I made. I said a bank allows you to borrow. The federal government allows the bank to borrow. Yes, in a sense, it actually allows them to loan 10 times more. Okay. Right. So they're actually borrowing it, but I want to give it because, people will nitpick and say, oh, no, bank, that's wrong. You can, if they've got $1 million in the bank of your money, they can loan $10 million on that $1 million that you've got. And when you look at interest charges that they charge on loans, they get 10 times that, times the interest rate on your money. It's really weird that banks charge us money to put our money in their bank. Right. With all of these fees, that's a whole nother thing that we'll talk about sometime later. Okay. But anyway, but here's the thing, and I will cover that since we're on it, and then we'll get right into this money stuff here. I want you to just start to think, because now a consciousness is here. Why would you continue to vote? Would you vote for someone that doesn't stand for your core beliefs in a particular manner? No. Well, there's several ways to vote. See, every time you go and do a follow on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, that's a vote. Right. You just voted. Why? Because see, these actors and actresses and social media giants out there, they get paid or they get elected to large contracts based on the number of votes that are cast on that like button and follow button. And so I choose not to cast my vote and follow someone who's not going to stand for what I stand for when it gets real rough and tough. Because if the knee was on the other neck, not the shoe on the other foot, if the knee was on the other neck of his son or daughter, I guarantee you their 45 million followers, they'd be begging them to make a statement. And so I'm withdrawing my vote from some people. I'll withdraw my dollar. So the product that you sell no longer will be in my house, period. Okay. There's restaurants we've already chosen. They don't get any more of our money.
Right. Restaurants that we love.
And we love it. But I love freedom for people more than I love a chicken sandwich.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm.
That's just how we roll. And so the thing that people have to do, and I'm talking right now specifically to African Americans right now, I want you to listen to me. As an African American man, 47 years old, quite often we continue to invite abuse. And we will allow people to step all over us and we'll go right out and buy from them because nobody's told us better.
Right.
And I, for one, have participated.
I have too.
I have too.
But not anymore.
That's
my mind.
That's done.
Right.
That's over. So I'm not here calling the pot calling the kettle black. I'm just keeping it real because she's been checking everybody. And it ain't just what you post. I need to see. And if you don't know where they stand, ask them. Call up your bank. Call up your dry cleaners. Hey, listen, where you stand? You can't clean my clothes. I will not fund anyone who is not anti-racist. They don't have to be out there with, remember, they don't have to be out there with signs. There's a long list of roles that they can play. And silence does not qualify as one role that they can play because you've chosen which side of the fence you're going to be on by your silence. I'm withdrawing that, okay? So where I, all the services that I may get, from your housekeepers to whoever it is, and now people will start to say, okay, hold on. When you hit them in the pocket, see, in my belief, the single reason the NFL, they haven't had a change of heart, from my opinion. I may sound angry, it's because I am. They haven't had a change of heart.
No.
Roger Goodell didn't sit up, oh yeah, you know what? Colin Kaepernick is right. They saw the video. You had Patrick Mahomes, the golden boy, in the center of the video. And see, it could have been stopped a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm not preaching to the choir, I'm preaching fact. And this is what I tell my distributors as well. This could have stopped a long time ago, but because we are subjected to abuse and we accept it, when all you had to take is enough quarterbacks in the NFL, mm-hmm. It takes 12 people to stop what's going on. Get about 12 quarterbacks, because there's only about 8 good ones in the NFL anyway, really good ones. Band together, say we ain't playing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're not playing unless you go do something. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about just Kaepernick. This is bigger. He just stood for the cause. We ain't playing unless you fight for our rights. How are you going to go find another Patrick Mahomes? How are you going to go find another Tom Brady? You don't replace that. If you could, the NFL wouldn't, you can't replace the elite.
Right.
But because sometimes we get paid too much money and we want to focus only on our family. I'll say this name, or I don't mind. I'm just keeping it real. And I'm not giving a total write-off, but I saw Steve Harvey, who blatantly on television with Monique talked about why he couldn't say and stand up for her because he's got family to feed. He lost my vote then. This was way before this. See, stuff like that is why separation can exist. I'll pay you enough to divide you so that those who don't and can't do for themselves will never get representation, because you will be concerned about your own money, that you won't come together when you can actually get more.
Right.
They came together, say, we ain't playing, we want guaranteed contracts, they'd have them in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna pay you enough to keep you quiet. Mm-hmm. And this is how some of our followers are, some of our leaders are. So when you vote and you go to the polls this year, don't vote because they're black, if you're black, because you might be voting for the one person who won't represent your values.
Right.
Find out, do they stand for what you stand for? Mm-hmm. And do they have a history of exhibiting acts that represent what you believe? And that's where you cast your vote. That's how the system should work. Not necessarily based off of who's a color and that color. That doesn't work that way. But anyway, let's get on to money matters.
Yeah, because you're out of time.
Yeah, because I'll be out of time. Y'all don't get me fired up over here, right? I got Muhammad Ali on my shirt too. I'm telling y'all, I might throw a punch at this camera over here, right? So anyway, where were we? Money matters. Let's talk about money matters. Okay, now, so what I want to talk about now, I want to give you some strategies. Obviously, now we've already blown out the hour. So if you're expecting 1 hour, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do everything in 15 minutes, okay? Mm-hmm. But what I want you to learn, I want to give you a statement. I want you to stop trying to be a good manager of money. Oh, be a good manager? I shouldn't be a good manager of my money? No, you shouldn't. You can't manage money anyway. You should be a good steward of your money. A good steward of your money. So I want you to be able to change the vocabulary and change the picture. Be a good steward of your money. And so I want to go over now some things that we call it what to do with a dollar. And the philosophy behind what to do with a dollar is, if you know what to do
with a dollar,
you know what to do with
multiple dollars.
You know what to do with $10.
Yeah.
If you know what to do with 10, you know what to do with 100. If you know what to do with 100, you'll know what to do with 1,000, and so on and so forth.
But it all starts with knowing what to do with $1.
All starts with what to do with $1. Mm-hmm. I want to give you an example of the differences of money flow and habits of the rich and the not rich. Okay? The rich and the not rich. Let's say that you've got a person who has, and rich in my mind is here. It starts here first. Mm-hmm. You have two people who make $100,000 a year. One is rich, one is poor, but they both make $100,000 a year. Let me share with you what the poor does with their money. The very first thing that the poor does with their money, the $100,000, is they pay taxes. $100,000 a year, $8,333,000 per month. If you live in Texas, you're going to get about 37% of that money that's going to go to the IRS. If you live in California, you're going to have another about 47% of that money go to the IRS or for state taxes. And so you don't own any of that money. It's already gone in taxes. Why? Because typically from the poor thinking person eternally earns money from wages. So the tax system has been designed that it's been designed for entrepreneurs. It was never designed for the working woman, for the working man, and it never will be. You have to understand the source of how something was created to see, how do I make it work for me? No different than systematic racism. I'm blending all of it in. Right now, it's working perfectly. The system works perfectly from the founding fathers who created it. It's supposed to work the way that it is now, because why would I design something that does not work in my benefit? Okay, so the same thing right now with money. So when you get paid, they pay taxes first. The second thing that they do after they pay taxes, okay, second thing they do after they pay taxes is that they're going to go out and take care of their expenses second. Bills. Taxes first. Bills second. After bills are paid, the third thing that they're going to do is they're going to have leisure purchases third.
And fun.
Leisure and fun.
Partying, eating out.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just giving you the order. The fourth thing that they're going to do is that they're going to, if something is left over, they're going to save. But that person is in a category, whereas that average American actually spends $1.22 for every dollar that they earn. So the fifth and final thing that they'll do, if there's anything left over, is invest.
But that's very rare, though.
Very rare.
Small percentage.
Very small percentage. Could you get me some non-lipstick water or a glass? I just can't do it. I'm gonna feel like I have lipstick on my lips. I'm trying to be serious.
You
Yeah.
don't have a lot of time left.
I know we ain't got enough time. I know.
Oh my God.
That's okay. That's enough for you. Let me see. Let me give me a little bit more. All right. Now, so let's talk about the other column now. I wish I put this up here. I'm just going from some of the things I teach now. Now, that's the poor column. That's the poor mentality. Now, let's talk about the rich. Would you believe that the rich, there's 5 things they do with their money? Matter of fact, they do the exact 5 things that the poor does.
Just in a different order.
Oh my goodness, they do them in a different order. The very first thing that they do when they get their money is they pay their expenses first. They invest second. Expenses first. Invest second. They will save third, leisure fourth, and taxes last.
Yay.
Right? It's kind of how we do it.
Yeah, I mean that's what America is all about.
That's what it's all about.
Capitalism.
So just reversing the order in which you do those things, oh my goodness, it puts you ahead. Now, the only way you can do that is that you've got to make sure that you also own and operate a business. A business. The government says, because you own a business, see, here's where it's equal. Because you own a business, you provide jobs. When you provide jobs, you provide a taxable element of income for the country. So we're going to give you what's called a tax break. Deduction. Mm-hmm. It's my attorney over here without a law degree. Right? So you now pay your expenses first. I mean, your expenses.
Now, and why is that? Okay, so just that one thing, mm-hmm. having the opportunity to pay your expenses first versus pay your taxes first. How does that work? Okay, so, all right. If you have a job, you get paid by a check, wages. Or you get paid wages, I'm sorry. Whether it's check, direct deposit, doesn't matter. Wire transfer, doesn't matter. So when you have a job, the government says you are not a trusted element of society at this point. We don't believe that you will pay us because you don't understand what it's like to make a contribution to creating. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tax money first. So you make $100,000, you get $8,333 gross income for that month, and then you're going to see 30-something% of that chop. So when you look at it, you've got 63% of that. So you are actually bringing home less than $5,000 a month. And they have taken the other $3,000 towards taxes. Why? Because they don't trust you. And that $3,000 that they're taking is money that you are not allowed to multiply, but they can. Right, because you never even received it.
You never received it.
Right.
Whereas The person on the other side, they receive 100% of their money, $8,333. They know that they've got to pay the taxes, but they take that 37% and they're able to invest it wisely so that at the time that taxes are paid, that money is even worth more and they're going to pay less in taxes. And I'm going to explain it. Okay? So that's how that works. So because I own a business, the government says, you need this money. I need you to go and invest in another building. I need you to go and invest in another this or another that. And why? Because if I give you this 37% to hold on to, I know you're going to go buy more vehicles for your employees. I know you're going to go out and buy more real estate. I know you're going to go out and expand to buy this or more products. And if you do that, that's creating more taxable elements for America. So we don't want your money now. We'll let you pay it later. Go do what you do, because the government does not know how to do what we do. So they trust you. This is why if you're working a job, you should have a home-based business.
Right.
And then the second element of expenses, we start paying things like mortgages. We start paying things like car notes. We start paying things like school. And what happens is the government says, oh, you own a business, you run it from your house? Yeah. Well, what part of your home do you use? This part. What percentage of square footage of your home is it? 20%. So how much is your mortgage per year? 10,000 or 20,000. So 20% of that, those expenses are now deducted because it's a part of your business. You're gonna have the same mortgage anyway. The government says, you've got kids? Yeah. Well, if you're in the poor category, what you do is you give your kid an allowance. If you're in the rich category, you pay your kids to answer the home-based telephone.
Yeah, you pay them salary.
You pay them to take out the home-based trash. You pay them to wash the home-based company cars. And don't call it allowance. It's their salary. And the government says up to a certain point, they don't have to pay taxes on it, and it becomes a tax deduction for you. So now we have both spent 80,000, or we made our 100, and we have both spent $50,000 in expenses. The government says, if you work, they're not expenses, they're yours. If you own a business, the government says it's not only an expense, it's a business expense. And so instead of taxing you on 100,000, you got $50,000 worth of expenses, such as vacation. Oh, I meant business travel. Such as driving 200 miles a week to do business. Oh, I meant taking a business trip in the company car and getting 57 cents per mile deducted. Oh, because you had season tickets that cost you $8,000 this year. Oh, because I actually took someone and we discussed business before or after we came back from each game, the government says those tickets are now deductible. Whereas when you're on the other side, they're not. Oh, you took clothes to the cleaners. Mm-hmm. Right after you came back from your business trip, those clothes are now deductible. I can keep going on and on and on.
But you get the point. So
you get the point.
So when you are a business owner, when you earn wages, when you have a job, you earn wages and your taxes come out first. Mm-hmm. When you own a business, you earn revenue, you bring in revenue, and you pay your taxes minus your expenses.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And that's typically for most business people, they do it quarterly. So you're paying your taxes at the end of a quarter versus off the top. And it depends on how big your business is. When it becomes big, you pay them quarterly, and sometimes we have to pay monthly. We did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But but many times you can pay at the end of the year. And so you've got time to turn that money over and make it work for you and end up paying less on the income and generate more income. And so when you do that, when everybody in your household operates on the poor side, and I say poor I'm not calling you poor just because we're not talking about a person making $100,000 a year poor. I'm talking about the categories of which they classify a thought process of the ways that you use money. If everyone in your house is on this side, there's no progress. If everyone in your household is on the other side, it's tremendous progress that you can make. So that's the first thing that I want you to get. Then what do I do with the dollar? So let's talk about that. Okay. So Mark, I want you to put up on the screen, and I want you to we're going to talk about 6 different buckets. And see, this is now how you can become economically empowered so that you can now make moves and you are able to defund racism. You're able to defund social injustices and many things like that. You're able to defund them because now you're in control of the money. Okay? And that's what we're talking about, you being in control of the money. So Mark, let's see if, there we go. Who is that gentleman on the $1 bill?
I love you got your own money.
Listen, when I say the boy got his own money, I mean the boy's got his own money, right?
Oh, that's funny.
All right, now, so here we go. So let's talk about what to do with the dollar. Do not try to go out and spend this.
It's not real money.
Hey, don't be saying it's not real money. It's valuable, okay? You just this is right here is something you keep, all right? So don't go out, try to spend this and say, hey, listen, I was talking to the man got his own money, and no, don't do that, all right? But anyway, so here we go. I love teaching this stuff. So let's talk about this.
No, we're already at 5. We're at 5:03.
With 5. So what, you trying to shut me down?
No, I'm not trying to shut you down. I'm just making you aware of the time, honey.
The people need to know what to do
I know,
with the dollar.
But you get a little long-winded.
We said we're gonna be long today.
Okay, all right. Well,
we didn't say no hour talk today. If they gotta go, I understand. We respect. They gotta go. But today, I got time.
Okay.
You know what you tell when you getting somebody together? What you say?
I got time.
I got time today, right? Right.
Okay.
So I got to equip my people today, right? Everybody who's on here, all right? So here's what we do. And I'm going to explain these here. And I want you to imagine that you've got 6 buckets. Okay? You want to go into this right now, or you want to start off with the 6 bucket part, or you want me to talk about it right?
No, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So you got 6 buckets. And whenever you get money, I want you to imagine these buckets and the percentages that you have. And so these buckets could actually be separate bank accounts. If you need that to be disciplined, okay, then you do that. And I've had people to go set up 6 different bank accounts. And we've been teaching this for a long time.
Yeah.
Tell the inspiration of why we taught it.
Well, I don't know, about 12 years ago, when we were in a previous company. Mm-hmm. And, Holton and I had our financial problems very young in life. So about 22 was when we bought our first home, right?
Yeah, yes.
And maybe about 25, 26 was when we lost our furniture company, right?
Right.
Okay, and so
we got our car repossessed and was almost going through foreclosure.
Right. So we started making money, a lot of money, our first wave of money. And during that time, we were going to be transitioning from another company. We had been in there for a while, and we noticed that a large part of our organization started losing things because they couldn't even go 30 days without income before they couldn't pay their mortgage or their car payments. Now, because of the experiences that we'd had early on, we were very good stewards of our money. We it only took one time for somebody to come pick my car up for me to realize, okay, this is not how I want to live my life. So we don't actually buy things we can't afford. And that has been the philosophy for a long time. What we didn't understand is that as leaders, it was our responsibility to teach these philosophies. We were living it, but we weren't teaching it. And I can remember one of the times that I actually lost my dream. And I talk about this in my book. And I can remember I was on the floor, you know, having a nervous breakdown. And part of it was because so many of our organization, so many people in our organization were just going through financial hardships. And I honestly felt responsible. Now, you know, I'm much older and wiser now. I know I can't carry everyone's, you know, issues on my back, but I asked him to make me a promise that from that day forward, that we would do our job of teaching these philosophies. Now, whether or not people follow them it's up to them. But once we have done our organization due diligence and you know, the respect and consideration that they deserve by teaching these philosophies, I'm okay with what happens next. So that's why we started it.
Yep. And we also we also had people who before would go out and spend a lot of money because they saw us spend a lot of money, but it's not equal.
Yeah, we're not making the same amount.
We're not only making the same amount, yeah, but we were making what we were making for a lot longer period of time. Mm-hmm. And so you can't skip from A to J. You got to go B, you know, you got to do your ABCs of wealth. And we were operating letter by letter, and they were trying to skip. And we said, because they saw us go out and buy a Rolls Royce, and they're thinking, okay, I need a luxury car. And so there's ways that you can do that. And I'm going to talk to you about how I bought my Rolls Royce. I want to give you that example. I'm proud of how I bought my first Rolls Royce, and I paid less for my Rolls Royce than many of you who probably have a used BMW because of what I'm about to show you right now. So put it back on the screen, Mark, and let's go through it. And then we'll take a few questions afterwards. This is a special call today, so it's a little longer. Now, so let's talk about these buckets. One of the first things I want you to do with your money, okay? One of the first things I want you to do is I want you to start what's called a U account. A U account. And the U account is pay yourself. And some of you are guilty at that. If you feel guilty, talk to her. She is excellent.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I know you are not pointing fingers.
You don't have no problems talking about where's my money.
Well, I still hadn't got my debit card, but that's for another show.
So you pay you first. Why? It builds confidence. It builds self-esteem.
Right.
You know how right now, if I ask most of you, what'd you do, you know, with the money from your first job or your last job or your first check from your last job? Paid bills. And so we get into this habit of paying bills, and you send more money to Bill than you do to you.
Right.
And Bill is so excited, and Bill takes care of his family better than you take care of your family. So let's swap that around. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can put it back up. Pay you first. Mm-hmm. So 10 to 30%, I appreciate it, Mark, putting it on me, but 10 to 30%, okay, is what we're talking about. 10 to 30.
Now how do you, I see that there is a scale there. So how do you determine?
There we go. Here's the scale. 10 to 30%, pay it back to you. Some of you are going to freak out right now. Well, I can't make it on what I've got now. How do I pay me 30%? This is where you want to get to. And I say 10 to 30 as a gauge. You're going to see these numbers. They've got some variable ranges there. So start off, if it's only 5% you can do now, pay you. Now, your U account is not for you to blow. Your U account is for you to reward yourself, and as the percentage gets larger, it also becomes for your some personal investments that you want to make yourself. Okay? So when we started making a lot more money, our percentage got up there. When it was smaller, the percentage was smaller. The more you make, the more you pay yourself. Give yourself a raise. So, Holton, I'm struggling. And it's hard to make ends meet. First things first. Look down right below the buckets. How do you achieve the 6 buckets and change your percentages? What can you eliminate from your monthly expenses? Don't try to have your cake and eat it too on your way to the bakery.
Right.
So if you can't afford Apple Music and Hulu, one of them got to go.
Or cable TV.
Or cable. Switch from mainstream cable down to, what is it called? The Sling TV?
Like
Sling TV, $35 a month. I'm thinking about dropping down too. I need to save them little $200. Our bill's too much. Drop it down. If you're eating out, cook your food. This requires effort. Okay? But so does being broke.
Right.
Being broke it takes a lot of effort to sit on the sidelines wanting to make a donation to bring about change, and I don't have the money to do it. That takes a lot. Okay? And so you'll be so glad that you did some of these things. How can you increase your income by 10% to 15% per quarter? What can you do to increase? Develop a plan to eliminate debt, especially consumer debt.
Credit cards are the worst.
Credit cards are the worst. So start with making phone calls. I took a group of people, I showed them how to do it. It's simple. Get on the phone today. When you get off this call today your credit card company and say, listen, I need to renegotiate my rate or I'm about to leave. I'm going to take my debt somewhere else. And if you've been paying on time, they're going to say, ho. We've been making 18% a month off of you. 18%. You are a good customer. We don't want to send you down there. I tell you what, we'll cut it in half. Just try me. Try me. It's a phone. Now, if you pay them when you get ready, they're glad to get rid of you. Okay? So do things like that. Call and renegotiate. Call your cable company. Hey, listen. Right now, I got all of these channels. I'm paying $200 and something a month. I watch 6 channels a month. I notice, and I'm paying $250. I'm leaving. Oh, ho. Listen, we got another package. We'll drop it in half, $100. What channels don't you watch? We'll cut all of those channels out. We'll do this. And maybe you don't need your cable box. We'll pick up your cable boxes and maybe you stream it, and $135, $150 a month you'll save. Just like that. Okay? All type of companies you can call and reduce your interest rates and stuff like that. So look at ways to do that. So 10 to 30% goes into your U account. Pay you. Start off small. When you get paid out of your business, pick a goal, choose a goal. What is it that I'm going to reward myself with? Why? What gets rewarded gets repeated. When you get on the other side and own a business, you're going to, I never forget, my first thing that I wanted, I bought myself a Mont Blanc pen.
You lost that pen, didn't you?
I lost several of them. Don't buy me a Mont Blanc pen. It's going to get it's going to get lost. That's a bad gift to give HB. I still have one though. I won't use it because I know I'm going to lose it. So that was my first gift. The second one, I wanted a shirt with cufflinks on it, custom-made shirt.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Remember that?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I went back. Why? I needed evidence that what I was doing was working. See, there was something psychological about my connection of looking at my Mont Blanc pen, write a check or take notes, because I knew my profits paid for that.
Right.
I wear that same one shirt that had cufflinks and I had my logo insignia on there, and I would wear that shirt and 3 times a week. Why? I'm collecting evidence. And guess what? I put my pen in my pocket. I've got 2 pieces of evidence I'm collecting along the way. At some point, you're going to collect enough evidence that you're going to charge yourself guilty of becoming wealthy. But some of you right now, you're completely innocent because there's no evidence that you nor anyone can collect about your journey to wealth. What are you about to say?
So what do you say to that person that says, I'm doing delayed gratification. I don't want to go out and buy myself anything. I'd much rather be saving that money or investing that money, or I just don't have it. I don't have it right now. I don't have any money that I can at least put 10% aside.
Okay. Well, start at 5%. Do something. Reward yourself. You pay everybody else. It's the principle. Stop treating everybody else better than you treat yourself. Stop it. Today, stop it. I'm not saying don't pay your bills on time. Pay them on time. Pay you on time too. And it will become a habit. And so when I'm inspired by increase, guess what I do? I have enough evidence to know that I go out there and perform. I got enough evidence that I'm collecting. This bracelet here is a result of hard work. This bracelet here, it was paid with my profits. This shirt here is paid for with my profits. Okay? This haircut is paid for with my profits. I did it so long that I no longer have income that comes from a job. Everything comes from my profits now.
And it's about a mentality. I love what you said, that we have to adjust the way that we are thinking about money and how we approach the conversation about money.
Right.
That there are habits and patterns that wealthy people have, and there are habits and patterns that poor people have. And if we want to go from one side to the other, we've got to adapt the right philosophy. Mm-hmm. Because most people don't have a money problem; they have a philosophy problem.
Yes, they have a steward problem. Yes.
The other thing, what do you say to that person? Because we're talking about this 10 to 30%. So mm-hmm. What do you say to this person that spends all of their money on things? They have nothing left.
Well, they have nothing left. You've got to become more disciplined, and you may need to have an accountability partner. And whereas you may earn the money and you say, here, I want you to help me become a better steward. Here is my plan. You make sure that the plan goes into play. It's like that with working out. Some people won't work out and treat their body right if they don't have somebody who's going to knock on that door, get them up, or at the gym, that person's going to make sure that they go through every exercise. How you do anything is how you do everything. It's our philosophy. So 10 to 30%, the more money you make, it becomes larger. So what was my 30%? I start putting money away, and I'll talk to you about it in a minute. Let me get through the buckets, and I want to give you one little quick thing to do on how to go ahead and apply this immediately this year, and you will start seeing evidence collected of being on the money, the wealth trail. You can see that in 2020. You can see it between 2020 and 2021. And I promise you it works. It's simple. There's no secrets. Number 2, make sure that your living expenses do not exceed 25% of your income.
Why 25%?
Okay? Because it means that you're living above your means. You're living above your means. If right now, when I mean living expenses, I'm talking about things such as rent, mortgage, car note, fuel, your gas, your utilities, insurance, your groceries, mm-hmm. stuff like that. Okay. You may say, wow, that's a lot, HB, because wow, I don't make that much. Remember, these are gauges. So some of you right now, those expenses may take 50% of your income. But here's the thing that I want you to think of. There's 2 circles that people have in their financial life. One is a dream circle, one is an income circle. If you're looking at your income circle and saying, wow, these dreams I have are too big for my income, don't do what the most people do. They shrink the size of their dreams to fit their income. No, go down there to steps 1 through 3 and figure out how can I increase this income circle so that I can play in the appropriate boxes. Don't take your first fruits of income and go out and buy nice things. You know, nice, consistent expenses like new cars, things like that. Don't do that, okay? So less than 25%. You want to, 25, I know it's maybe a stretch. It's because your money philosophies have been bad. Your stewardship has been bad. Take a look at some families that are immigrants that come here. We laugh and we say, wow, there's 6 families all in one house. I guarantee you, you take all the income, the expenses for that one house is less than 25% of the total income. This is why they end up owning your neighborhood.
Right. They have their priorities straight.
Okay. And so, yeah, you may want bling or you may want this nice car, but in the beginning, you're not going to be able to have both. Right. Sorry, you can't. And so stop getting, first of all, I don't want you to tie your self-image to nice things.
Right. That's a big one.
And do not allow social media to make you feel inadequate because you can't compete with the circle that you think you're in because they have nicer houses or nicer cars.
Or better clothes.
Right, or better clothes. Okay. Don't worry about that. I'm just telling you that's old. That's the broke side. Okay, that's the broke side. So on the third column, give back.
We can stop at number 3 today. Okay.
These people don't want to stop number 3.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we going for it, baby.
Okay.
We're going for it. We're going for it. We just gonna finish up.
You know, I love how you can make that decision when it's something that's important to you.
All right.
But when I want to say something, we got to stick to an hour.
Yeah, because you over there talking about coconut flour.
Oh my God.
And me apologizing and all that stuff.
Keep going.
World, let me ask y'all a question. Facebook, do y'all want us to keep going? I got some good stuff. It ain't gonna take long. Do you want us to keep going, or you want us to bring it on next week? I'm gonna let them vote. Let's see what they want.
Okay, well you keep going with number 3. We're on 10%.
Okay.
10%.
So 10%. Here's why you give back. The reason you give back is because we all have a responsibility to do what our parents should have taught us, and I'm sure they did when we were younger. Listen, when you come into this house and you leave, make sure that room is just as clean when you left it as when you came in. Make sure that kitchen is just as clean or cleaner than when you leave. Same thing with the world. Make sure this world is a little better after you've checked out. And the way that you do it is by your works, your contribution, and your money. It takes money to make this world go round. Okay. And you're starting to see now how people are opening up their purses and funding different projects and doing things. That's just what it takes. Okay. But
you're not able to contribute if you don't do well with your money.
Right.
You're not able to contribute to a cause the way that you could if you have means. I mean, I every time I hear people, criticize the rich, it's like, well, it takes dollars and cents to make change a lot of times. I mean, yes, people do want our time, and that's valuable in and of itself. I mean, we know that we always have to give time to certain things that we care about. But sometimes the issue just needs money. When we're talking about food, we need money. When we're talking about electricity or a roof over our head, we need money, not time.
Right.
So we have to be smart about those things as well, and understand that there's only so much of a difference we can make when we don't have any money.
Only so much. Yeah. So 10% is a gauge. Okay. Remember, these are just gauges. This is the sweet spot of where you'd like to be, or what we found is a very good area to be in. Sometimes when you have more, you can take that 10% and you can give more. Why? Because your your expenses become much less of a percentage than what your income is. Okay. And you can make up that difference by saying, I'm going to give back, but don't give blindly and don't give under duress. We found that when people talk you into giving and you give resentfully, it doesn't multiply. You want to talk about that?
Or you allow somebody to manipulate you into giving, make guilt trip you and make you feel like you owe them something. Mm-hmm. So this is a good time to talk about loaning money.
Right.
Borrowing and loaning.
So on that note, our philosophy is don't ever loan money to friends. Don't loan money, period, to individuals. Just don't loan money. There's a reason we have banks. And if you go read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, okay, it's the cornerstone of how our monetary system was developed, okay? And banks are designed to loan money. And so when a buddy of mine comes to me and said, man, I'm in a tight, I need 10 grand, or I need 5 grand, or I need $500, or family, I'm behind on my bills. My question is, what did the bank tell you when you applied for the loan there? If the bank who lends money as a business disqualifies that person because the bank has enough background information to know their history and say, you will not pay me back, you have no business loaning that person money. You're going to ruin your friendship. So if you want to get rid of them, loan them the money. You say, well, I've loaned it, they've paid it back. I'm talking about on a principal basis. I'm telling you what I know. So we only give when we want to give, even if they come ask for a loan. If we see that the cause is worthy, we will give and say, you don't owe us anything back. Just how we do it, okay?
I've seen more relationships ruined because of this right here. Because if I loan money that I already don't have to loan to someone who says, oh, I'm in need right now, I'll give it back to you on the 15th when by the time your mortgage needs to be paid or your car note needs to be paid, and then they are unable to pay you. So now you're both in a financial situation because you loaned money that you didn't have to give to someone else who was in need, and now you're both screwed up financially. Mm-hmm. That has ruined more relationships. And I just decided a long time ago that my relationships was worth more to me than money. And so if I couldn't give it, if it couldn't leave my hands and me not ever worry about it, I won't loan it. I won't loan it unless I have it to give, because I don't want this friction. I don't want this uneasiness and this tension in the air when I see the people that I love because they loan money that they couldn't pay back.
And I'll tell you this right here, psychologically and emotionally, the person who borrows the money from you, they're normally in their heart very resentful that you were even in the position to loan them money and that they needed it from you. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you what I know. Sounds crazy, but it's true. The more you do, the people you do the most for are the ones who's going to bite you in the ass. I said like, I'm just telling you the truth.
Oh my God, you cursed me.
Ass not a word. They can use it in the Bible. So
I don't think they use that word in the Bible.
When last time you read about it?
Listen, keep going, Holton.
Anyway, I'm just saying they're gonna get you. Next, so let's go back here. Savings. HB, why is savings the smallest percentage? Here's why. Who do you know who saved their way to becoming rich? Saving money doesn't multiply. Investing money multiplies. But I want you to save so that you have your war chest. Save so that you have, some money so that when hard times come. So if you're making $100,000, save $20,000. You're saving $10,000 a year. Over a period of years, that's your savings, and that's the save. And your savings is not to be negotiated and going back in. And I'm gonna take some out of savings, now I'm gonna put it back in. No, that's not savings account.
That's not really saving. Sure,
it's not saving. You got to be disciplined with this. I'm telling you, do this stuff. You're gonna realize how simple it is to develop wealth. Mm-hmm. You don't have to earn a lot of money to be rich. You don't. It helps. It's even better when you earn a lot. You don't have to. Okay? Now, let's go to number 5, which is important. I want to talk to you about this. 20% investing. 20% investing. When you invest, I want to share something with you. Never invest in things that you don't know about. Never allow someone to talk you into an investment. The best investment you can ever make is not making a bad one.
I love that.
Okay. And so just like we don't give unintelligently, we don't invest unintelligently. One of the best investments that you can make from the beginning after not making a bad one is in yourself, into your own personal education of how money works. Invest in you first.
Right.
Because typically when you start the road to investing, you're not investing in businesses or projects. You're really investing in the person who's leading it. We have a saying, don't bet on the horse, bet on the jockey. That's typically how you want to look at it. Okay. And so from an investing standpoint, you've got to become savvy at the basics and the foundation of whatever it is that you're investing in. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a little tip now. I'm going to throw it in right now. I'll show you right now, if you're willing to be disciplined. I'm talking to those right now who feel they don't make a lot of money. Here's what I'd like for you to do. Whatever your eat out budget is, cut it in half right now. If you want to get rich, you want to be wealthy, cut it in half. Just cut it in half. Okay. Well, I don't eat a lot. Cut it in half. Cut your entertainment budget in half right now. Okay. You're even some of your home entertainment. What can you do with it? Is it important to have Hulu and Netflix? And Amazon Prime? Is that important? Could you get rid of all but one? Is it important to have Spotify, to have Apple Music, and to have Tidal? And Pandora? Could you just get the free Pandora account? Would that work? Just while you're working on getting rich. Because this is why I don't take people's excuses about I don't have money. Yes, you do. You're a bad steward of what you have. So let's say this here. Let's say that you put together in your U account, between your U account and your investing account, you put together, let's say, $30,000.
Investing, okay.
Okay? Because remember, your U account is also for personal investing. And you want to get on the other side of wealth? You take 30 grand. And in your community or in your city, identify a growing, established area that's older, where some growth is looking to come, and do your research to find that. Doesn't take long, you have to care and you have to want it. And go and buy a duplex. You say, well, I don't have enough money or the experience. That's a simple one. We'll take care of that on another call. Buy yourself a duplex. Some areas, let's say you found a duplex for $100,000. Now, I'm speaking Houston numbers, and I'm speaking probably, Tampa numbers in some areas. I'm speaking Atlanta numbers. That's not going to happen in California. It's not going to happen in New York. But relatively, you know what I mean. The beauty of real estate, and I'm not giving you a real estate course. I'm giving you a course on how to do things to put yourself in a better position. The beauty of it is you don't need the $100,000 to get a $100,000 house or duplex. You move out of where you are right now. and you move into your duplex and you buy it in a pretty decent established going neighborhood, you buy it the right way. You move in one side, you've put $30,000 down. You now have a neighbor that you're going to rent out the other side to. The neighbor, you normally can charge enough rent if you buy in the right neighborhood, that the rent that the neighbor pays to you is enough to satisfy the entire mortgage. So now you continue paying the rent that you were paying right now, you continue paying that same amount into your investment account. Do not live rent-free to even yourself. Charge yourself, okay? We have an office, which is another home that we have, executive office, and we charge ourselves $20,000 a month to lease it. We be paying, everywhere else we were gonna go, it was more than that. We don't say, oh, we own it, it's free. No, we run a business. You're now thinking like a businesswoman, businessman. You keep paying. So here's what happens. You now, after 18 to 24, let's just say 24 months, you've paid enough into your investing. You also are continuing to invest 20% into your investment account. You've got your neighbor who's been paying down the mortgage. You now have equity. You pull more equity out. You go to your bank that believes in your social philosophies, by the way. And you say, I now want to get a fourplex. I want to pull the equity out of that one. And now you go and invest in, I would say, a fiveplex. I don't want to get so technical, but the reason a 5 over a 4 is a fourplex, you could only categorize the value by comps. 5 and above, it has nothing to do with what the other properties are worth. You now have a value based off of what revenue that particular property brings. 5 or more. You now go live in the 5, in one of the 5, or stay in, if it's a nicer place, you live in one apartment complex that's 5 units or more, and you lease out the other 4. You now put another tenant where you just moved from, and now you've got 6 sources of income coming in, paying you, and you still pay the rent that you would normally paying now. But you've got your job, you may have your side business, and 6 separate incomes coming in. And you do it all over again. In the next 2 years or the next 4 years, and you keep your income and expenses low, and you will start to see how that money starts to pile up, but more importantly, how your thinking changes and other opportunities become available. There is a reason that the game called Monopoly existed, okay? Or the game Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki. But do it in real life. This is simple. Everybody on this call can do this. You can have bad credit right now, don't matter. Because remember, you're gonna take it and figure out how to improve your credit. You go to your bank or lending institution and you got 30 grand. They will give you $100,000 property or $100,000+ property if you got 30 grand to put down. You now only owe 70. Remember, a growing area. 2 years later, that property that was 100,000 is now worth maybe 115. You plus your neighbor have been paying rent payments to you for 2 years. So if they've been paying you $1,500 a month, you've been paying $1,500 a month. That's $3,000. That's $36,000 a year, 2 years, $72,000 that you've been paying to that mortgage. And guess what? You've paid it off. You go back and refinance, pull the money out, find a 5-plex, 6-plex, 8-plex. You stay in one, you rent the others. Let them pay you money and continue to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And don't hire anybody to come service the house who doesn't believe in your, who don't exhibit some belief in what your causes are. That's got to change. Now you're building a community. Now you've got money left over. Now you've got a voice. Now you are a leader within the community. And it didn't even seem like, wow, this wasn't like this huge quantum leap that I had to make. I followed some simple principles. Right. This is how you invest your money. Right. And then number 6, ladies and gentlemen, you take 15 to 25%. And you put it in that bucket for taxes. You say, well, HB, I know the tax system right now says I pay 39.7% if I make X number of dollars, but remember, you own a business. Right. And so when the dollars come in, yeah, you pay the same percentage on the net. If your net, if your gross after deductions is there, adjusted gross income is there, but after the adjustments, if you're a business person, it can get down to 25%. When you start looking at all of these very wealthy people and you say, wow, they only pay 12%, stop getting mad and stop calling them loopholes. We have laws in America and they are black and white.
And they support capitalism.
They support it.
Which is what this country was founded on.
And so who do you think wrote those laws? Who do you think lobbied for the people to make the tax system work? The people who wanted to benefit from them, the wealthy. Right. This is why your vote counts. This is why you say, if I want better policing in my community, let me make sure that I go and vote for someone who's demonstrated that they are against and completely against racist policing or racist policy or policies that endanger the lives of black Americans or anybody. That's how you do it. You do it at the polls, you do it economically as well. This is how you change stuff. We need those people fighting right now. We need them picketing and with the signs. We need that may be the person who's on fries. And their position is no less important than the person who's donating $100 million somewhere. Because if they weren't doing what they were doing, somebody wouldn't be donating $100 million right now. So don't let nobody tell you this ain't necessary. We don't condone violence. We don't wish anybody gets hurt. But peaceful protest doesn't work.
Ask Colin Kaepernick, it doesn't work. Right.
After Martin Luther King was killed, riots took place in 100 cities. Things were burned to smithereens. 6 days later was the Civil Rights Act and laws that we have to this day. But he was peacefully protesting all his life and didn't happen. So I'm not encouraging or urging anyone, but what I'm saying, and all of us have heard it, is that rioting and the unrest and the spirit of frustration and those who are willing to die for what they believe right now is basically nothing more than the voices of the unheard people who lived for a long time saying, you're not listening to me. But there's other ways to fight too. Hit them in the pocketbooks. Hit them at the polls. Hit them where it counts.
Right.
You guys can count on us. Ladybugs, I want you to say a couple words here. I know I took the time today.
Oh, no, you take the time every week, but you're just acknowledging it today. But I want you to speak to this last part of where it says what you don't acknowledge, what you don't honor will leave you.
What you don't honor will leave you. When you don't honor values, they can't support you. When you don't honor your spouse, the love and what you stood for and what you started in the beginning, that will leave. Maybe physically, he or she may still be there, but what you had in the very beginning disappears. When you don't honor trust, you'll be surrounded with nothing but liars, because truth will never actually set foot at your door. When you don't honor the value of $1, it easily slips out of your pocket. And dollars, money does not, is not being created. Yes, do we have a Bureau of Printing and Engraving? Yes, we do. They exchange money, but it's not created. The reason they call it currency is because it moves like a river and it goes from one place to the other. There's a current, there's a flow to it. That's why they call it cash flow. And your honor and respect of the principles that govern the laws of building wealth will allow money to be attracted to you or repelled away from you because you don't respect it. And so this is why it's so important to teach your kids what to do with the dollar. We've made it where you can download this form here. We'll keep this YouTube up, forward it, let people know about it. This talk that we did today, Do we have any more questions? We got some questions there. We'll answer these questions and we'll end it. We'll end this here. So I hope that this has made some sense to you. And let's go to our questions here. We're just going to wrap this up right at the top of the hour for sure. All right, Leona, do you believe that it's better? We talked about that question already. What are some good strategies that people can use when they're going through personal, huge challenges while going through all of this in society? You want to take that?
I mean, that's a multi-level question. What are
well, you're in the multi-level marketing.
So what are some things that people can do while they are do in terms of what? In terms of saving money, or
what are some good strategies that people can use when they're going through personal huge challenges while going through all this in society? Surround yourself with good people. You got to learn, and one day we'll teach on this about how to build a supporting cast. We're real big on having a supporting cast, and it's not just your girlfriends that you're gonna call, that you can say, child, let me tell you about this. No, not just that. You've got to know who you are. What is it that you need? Who is it that I call when I need this? Who is it that I call when I need that? Who is it that I call when I need this and when I need this and when I need? You've got to build your supporting cast. Everybody, you should look at yourself as you are the CEO of You Incorporated. And then you've got to now build your board of advisors. Who's on your board of advisors for living a healthy, wealthy, fulfilling life?
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll add to that is just educate yourself. The information is out there. Really, really take this printout and digest it, like dive in and make sure that you understand these principles. The other thing I'll add, if it becomes overwhelming with everything that's going on, sometimes you have to unplug, get off the internet. Turn off your television, turn off the news. I mean, there was a point that I had to do that because everywhere I look, it's just, something negative, and I need a mental break. So don't be afraid to just unplug at times when it gets to be too much. Yes. And the other thing for me, meditation really helps me to get centered and to
and she does it every morning
and to stay calm.
Yeah, unplug though. Just get rid of this thumbing of the scrolling. Stop scrolling. Stop it. Okay, we know what's going on. Emotionally, when you're going through some stuff, you can't take it, so stop it. Just shut it down. Here's one by Tawana. Do you know of any interracial couples? Yet? If so, have they shared what it's like communicating situations like this, with their
biracial children, like this,
to their biracial children? Yes. Matter of fact, one of our employees is who's probably listening right now. We talked about it. I talked to her about it, and she is married to a white man, and I know she told me that it's been really a struggle with him communicating back to his family, who does not see it the same way that most of America is starting to see it now. And it does become a struggle. And obviously they do have kids as well. She haven't told me about how the interactions with the kids are, but you just have to handle it.
And I mean, I do think that this is a very sensitive issue here. And that's why we all, this is a lesson for all of us, just to be more kind and considerate. Because if I also have a biracial sister, and I have several biracial friends. And I remember having, I'm not going to call any names because I don't want to put anybody's business out there, but I remember having a conversation this week, and this particular person said, I feel some kind of way about what's going on, because I feel like if I speak for Black Lives Matter, then I'm dishonoring my mom, who is Caucasian. And if I speak against it, I'm dishonoring my dad. So this is a real issue. I don't know that I necessarily have the answers on this. I can just imagine being in a biracial household and having to address the sensitivity of somebody who is both Black and white. It is really, really difficult. But I do think that our responsibility is just not shrinking and being willing to run toward those things that are difficult, and not hiding from it and not avoiding it, because a lot of times that's what we do. To the hard things, we avoid it. And then we don't get the answers that we need. We don't work toward the solution, and then the cycle continues. So if it were me, I'm just gonna, I had to have this conversation with my sister that's biracial. That is, I would do more listening than anything, just to understand the perspective and the feelings.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, babe. Stephen Small says, can you forgive genuine ignorance? Yes.
Ignorance is not a character flaw, people. It's not. Ignorance is not a character flaw. The fact that you don't want to open up your mind and give credit and respect other perspectives is. But just the fact that you have not experienced certain things, I feel like we have to have a little bit of patience too, because some of these ideals and things that we are discussing, certain people have not had experience with it, even though it's going on in the world. I mean, I could talk to you about a lot of things that I've gone through, and maybe you can feel for me, you're sensitive to it, but it's still a certain part of it you don't understand unless you've ever been discriminated against. So there is still that disconnect. How we bridge that gap is we have to have those conversations. We've got to be willing to exercise some humility and some kindness and take the time out to have those conversations without getting belligerent, without getting angry, without getting defensive. This to me is what gets in the way. I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah,
I mean,
I think you got a great perspective on it, and I think you said it perfectly. I don't think there's anything I would add to it. One thing that I see here is Mr. Lynn Mooney says, "What about human lives matter?" Lynn, you may not have been on the call earlier. We did discuss that a little bit. Now, I only addressed that again because it's really important, because this has become one of the biggest distractions that people have gotten away from the real message and the intent. To give you an example, it's no different when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. He specifically said, "I am kneeling in protest of police brutality and how Black people are actually being treated. My kneeling has nothing to do with the armed services. My kneeling has nothing to do with wanting to disrespect the flag. But I want to bring attention to this issue." And what happened is you had the narrative of the NFL and many others who changed the narrative as a distraction so that we didn't have to focus on that. So all human lives, they do matter. Human lives matter, okay? But what happens here, Lynn, is when you're in a position that that one component of the human race is being left behind, that's the one that at that moment that needs the attention. And just to have a focus to say that Black Lives Matter, it's not a racist comment, and he didn't say that. And it doesn't mean that all human lives don't matter. But when when it's organized that a body of people have been systematically, and there's so much evidence of the systematic being left behind, then you have to bring attention to that which is not happening. If you were building a house, okay? If you were building a house, Mr. Lynn, and your roofer left off the roof, and it started raining in your house, I don't believe that any of us, if we're in that same position, would say, well, the floor matters. Mm-hmm. Or all parts of the house. No, right now, where's the roof, man?
Well, the point is, all lives do matter.
Where is the roof so that I can protect the entire house?
All lives do matter, but whose life did George Floyd's life matter to the policeman who killed him? Everybody stood around and watched this man die. They didn't feel like his life mattered.
Right.
So the point is, yes, all lives matter, but the point, we have a segment of society that is deciding to ignore that Black lives and brown lives and minority lives matter. That is why we have to make this statement. Not to say that the other races or other lives don't matter, but these do, and we need to make sure that we have guidelines and laws in this country that protect us from racism, from discrimination, and just downright wrong treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So
and Mr. Mooney, I would say, and I don't know what his perspective is. I know it was just a question.
Yeah.
Take it from myself. I'm an African American. I'm 47 years of age. I've led organizations of over 3 million people. I have organizations now in 187 countries. I go all over the world, and I can speak the emotional language of every country that I go to. And I want you to know,
that's good,
from my perspective, there is no agenda when I say, I need you to say Black Lives Matter.
Right.
One perspective that you may not have ever had, and I talked to one of our champions here, Mark Kithcart. And as we were talking and we had a chance to educate each other, Mark came up to me after some conversation. He says, HB, he says, man, I never thought about it, but I've never had to prepare when I get pulled over. He says, it never occurred to me that this is what you go through.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for saying that.
And I'll share with you why it's important. Mr. Mooney, I've got very, very nice cars, and I've worked really, really hard. And when I get pulled over, as I do, you know what I'm saying to myself? They're probably going to give me a shot because they think I'm somebody. You get pulled because when you look at those who've been shot, they're not getting shot in Bentleys and Rolls Royces. And I'm not saying that's what you need. I'm saying that's the only thing, that's the only card I have at feeling like there's going to be a sense of hesitation of judgment.
Well, and they will assume you have means to fight the
right.
injustice too. You know, this is also a class issue.
Right, it's a class issue.
Because the voiceless and people who don't have resources, they don't have a platform to speak up for themselves.
Right. So that's why it's important. And so when we can eliminate this issues that we have, then nobody would have to say all lives matter, because when all lives matters, guess what? All lives matter.
We don't have to say it. We don't have to say Black Lives Matter.
Right.
That was my point.
So last couple questions here. Let's see here.
Can you forgive genuine ignorance?
No, yeah, we didn't.
Went through that.
What if you aren't sure what to say, and that's your reason for silence? I appreciate your honesty here. I really appreciate your honesty, Mr. Cole, on that. Learn what to say, because there's enough information now. And now the stand of saying, I am anti-racist and anti-systematic oppression is a good start.
And I think okay, listen more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because and then say
right.
that, ask for input. Mm-hmm. And if you I'm not sure if you are white or African American or whatever, but if you are white, I would reach out to people who are African American or minorities of some sort who can give you a window into their perspective, because understanding it is one thing. Knowing that it exists and then experiencing it are two different things. They're worlds apart. So the video helps because you could visually witness it. But if you don't know, you're staying silent because you don't know what to say. Ask questions. Mm-hmm. Get really good at asking the right questions. Yeah. And when you seek truth, you'll find it.
Yeah. Better than my answer. Discuss self-employment with no employees who also has regular employment. Self-employment with no employees who also has regular. Well, I think we discussed it already. Being self-employed and not having employees. You don't have to have employees to own a business and operate a business. When you specifically in our business home base, you don't need employees until your business grows to the point that you do. Tim Lambert, which bucket does debt fall into? It falls into the expense category. Okay. When you pay off your debt, Tim, first of all, take all your credit cards, anybody you're paying interest to. Okay. Get to a point where you don't have to pay it unless the interest that you're paying, you're making more money from the money you borrowed than on the interest. This is why we chose to be debt free. We don't finance cars. We don't finance homes. We don't finance none of that stuff. Because we know that every time we pay interest, that's somebody else's income. You take all of your expenses that you're paying interest on now and call everybody and get a reduction. About 90% of them will do it if you've been paying on time. Tell them, hey, listen, and talk from a position of strength. Don't call up like you don't know what you're talking about. Hey, listen, it's HP. I was just giving you a call. I was going over my statement. Notice that I'm paying 19.8%. And right now, this is not competitive. This doesn't work for me. I'm looking to go ahead and transfer all of my debt. Unless you've got a program, I'd love to stay and do business with you. What can you offer me now so that I don't have to go through the inconvenience of transferring my business? And now they're going to go ahead and resolve it. Trust, they already have people trained for when you call. It's just that 99% of people don't know how to do it. The other thing I would tell you is when you start paying off your debt, start with the highest interest rate and start with the lowest balance. Don't try to pay off your house when you've got a credit card with $800 on it. Get rid of the $800 credit card. If you got another thing that's $2,200, take care of that next. Next thing is $3,500. That's next in line, and start chipping away at that until you got one. Until you get rid of the big one. Tommy Peters, where do you put the U money? You put the U money in your U account. You designate it in your U account, whether that's a bank account, whatever it is. Don't put it up under your mattress or whatever it is, but it's just that you know what that money is for. Last one here. What up, Mark? Can you have HB elaborate on eliminating debt, which I just talked about? The one of the 3 rules, but not a part of the 6 buckets. Maybe he can get a little bit more detail on it. So I think I covered that on there. And the last thing I got was smiley faces. So we have gone over our time. Guys, we appreciate each and every one of you for staying with us. This was a double call.
I know. Oh my God. So this should count as 2 in our series.
This is going to count as 2. And again, you did all the talking.
I didn't.
Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So hopefully this was something for you guys. I hope. My hope for you, if you're out there, if you're not African American, if you're not minority, I hope that you can just borrow our perspective. And I'm talking about mine and Earlene. There's no agenda. We don't need anything from you. We don't want anything from you. We don't want no favors. But we live this. We've lived it for 47 years. Okay. And it hurts my heart when someone can't get to the point or chooses not to get to the point where they can acknowledge that simple thing. Right. But what's going to happen? It's going to happen. It's happening right now. And for companies and for individuals, what I want you to ask yourself, when your great-great-grandchildren or your grandchildren meet up with you years from now, wherever that place may be on earth or in your afterlife of heaven, and say, what side of history did you choose to be on? What answer do you want to give them? Because this is just the beginning. It's happening. We love you guys. Stay safe out there.
Love you guys.
Stay smart. Okay? And stay free. See you guys next Sunday. Boom.